Cantonese is still by far the most commonly used language here, but an influx of mainland migrants from outside the southern city of Guangzhou, where Cantonese is also spoken, has left many fearing that might just change, particularly as the government's pushed for more Mandarin learning in schools. So pun choi is a traditional dish served around Chinese New Year, typically containing various types of dried seafood. Now this pet shop's created its own version of pun choi, and we've got some sea cucumber here and some abalone, and it's all made out of dog food. Let's take a look and see what this guy thinks. Well, he took that down in one. Hello there, and a very warm welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Review. I'm Patrick Falk. Coming up, LegCo rolls out new labour laws aimed at better protecting foreign domestic helpers, but do they go far enough? Me Too movement in the spotlight again as Vera Low files police report against her ex-coach, but we take a look at why the campaign isn't picking up more momentum here. And we'll be talking about the row over mandatory Mandarin exams at Baptist University. And joining us on the show today is cultural critic Vivian Chan. Thank you very much for being here for the first time. Look forward to chatting to you in a moment.
Thank you for having me.
All right, LegCo this week passed new labour laws to better protect foreign domestic helpers. The legislation is aimed at cracking down on illegal employment agencies and deterring them from extorting job seekers. From February 9th, those who break the rules could face a maximum $350,000 fine and 3 years behind bars. That's a considerably. For now, though, the situation doesn't look like it's going to change much. Once you break down the numbers, it's actually easy to see where the problem is. In the last decades, the number of cars on the road in Hong Kong increased by 48%. The number of private parking spaces, though, rose by just 9%. And with studies showing there's still steady demand for private cars, the market isn't likely to hit the brakes yet. Well, Claudia, Kofi Annan, Malala Yousafzai, Nelson Mandela, just three of the names that have won the Nobel Peace Prize. Do the likes of Joshua Wong match up to those giants of human rights?
Now, you've mentioned three big names, and they've actually won. Joshua and his two friends are just getting the nomination, and nomination only. I'd assume there will be at least a dozen, if not dozens, of nominations. But I personally am very proud of this nomination.
Good to see you, mates. And let's talk a little bit about what Trump had to say. What has his presence been like at Davos? How's he been received there?
Good to chat to you too, Joel. Yeah, well, earlier in the week, protesters had a great deal of difficulty coming up to Davos because of the weather conditions and blocked roads. But as the week's gone on and those roads have cleared, more and more activists have been turning up. Yesterday, we saw quite a few just in the streets just behind me here. And no doubt they'll be out in full force ahead of that key item on the agenda today. There is this high sense of anticipation ahead of the US President's keynote address this afternoon, which will start at around 2 o'clock Swiss time.
And point as well, because you know, on one hand we're talking about what was said and whether or not it's respectable for the President of the United States to be using those kinds of words, but we are talking about immigration at the same time. I mean, if we look at Hong Kong and stepping away from the US, it's easy for us to say that what Trump said was unacceptable, but at the same time, Hong Kong isn't a place that necessarily accepts a lot of immigration from a lot of these countries that we're talking about. What does that say about this place?
Well, I would think that the immigration problem that we have here in Hong Kong that is really causing a lot of upset is basically Chinese people coming to a Chinese city, Hong Kong, from the mainland, where we have a lot of stress. And
it's hard to say how many other domestic helpers are having to endure these kinds of living conditions. Few are willing to speak out. But as home prices in Hong Kong keep scaling new heights, more people are having to downsize where they live. Many simply can't provide helpers with suitable accommodation. Well, as expected, there was a heavy police presence and, of course, a media scrum that had converged outside the High Court well before proceedings began today. The trio of Nathan Law, Alex Chow and Joshua Wong were convicted last year for their part in the storming of government headquarters in September 2014. They wanted to retake Civic Square, a key protest site which had been shut off by the unpopular former chief executive C.Y. Leung following a series of sit-ins. It's described as a prelude to the Occupy protests, which 2 days later saw parts of Hong Kong locked down for a period of 79 days. Now, one of the key themes here at the World Economic Forum this year is income inequality, and one organization's come here to highlight exactly that problem. They've come here to Davos without a place to stay and actually spent the evening out in the open. Andrew Funk, thank you very much for joining us here. I don't envy your sleeping conditions last night. What's this stunt all about?
Well, every month we do a sleep out called Everyone Sleeping in the Street. And what we want to do is create awareness and also raise funds. So that way all the homeless entrepreneurs, the people that want to tell their story and work to get off the street can have the opportunity. So we're giving them a voice here in Davos.